Hả? Okay. Good evening, Jagurdev. Namaskar. Can you all hear me? Yes. All right. अपना थोपड़ा दिखाइए. Turn on your cameras. Okay. Like our ritual, let's close our eyes before we begin. आंखें बंद. Take a deep breath in and breathe out. Take another deep breath in and breathe out. And the mind might be all over the place. Bring it to this moment, here and now. मन को वर्तमान क्षण में ले आइए. We're going to learn new things today. Let's sit with the attitude of a student and maximize our learning. A day without learning is a day wasted. Take another deep breath in and breathe out. And with a smile on your face, slowly and gradually, धीरे धीरे अपनी आंखें खोल सकते हैं. You may open your eyes. Okay. So welcome to this third session of our workshop. Are you excited about today? Are you ready to unlearn and learn and relearn all of that? All right. So great. Do you have your pen and paper handy? It's also nice if you are watching this on your phone, then you keep your laptop with you with your presentation, the one that you made. If you're watching this on your laptop, then maybe just keep that presentation also there. Yeah. All right. Cool. Yeah, if you don't have a laptop, that's all right. Then just take notes on your book, in your book. If you have your laptop, then keep it to the side, but please minimize or switch. I mean, just shut down that WhatsApp or the web WhatsApp or any other distraction that's on your laptop. Yeah. Only the presentation part you keep open, and of course, somewhere where you can jot down notes. Yeah, Ujjwal is asking, how do I know? Because I do the same. Okay, so I'm very excited to share with you that we have a very special guest with us today. In a short while, you'll see him on the screen, but let me first tell you about him. Are you interested? Are you excited? Yes, thumbs up. Lovely. Yeah. So his name is Deepankar Lamba. I have known Deepankar for I don't know how many years now. I think my first memories of him was when he would come now and then for our Kriya follow-ups. They had this gang of young people who had done the YES course back in the day, and Deepankar would come and hang out with us. And then he went away to London for his undergrad, and I didn't see him for a long time. And then he came back. He has been volunteering with our team for more than 10 years. I moved to Sri Sri University to teach over there, and Deepankar joined there as an MBA candidate, and he did his MBA from Sri Sri University. And unlike most people who would only worry about which company is coming on campus to hire and how much package I will get, Deepankar, along with this other guy from Sri Sri University, set out to start his own thing. And they got into a very unconventional field for a startup. They got into solar panels and renewable energy and solar energy. And Deepankar is now the founder of this company called Stellar Grid, and they deal in solar panels and solar energy and renewable energy systems. And of course, he's very good at, he's a designer at heart. He's a very creative person. He's a bike enthusiast. He's a gym enthusiast, fitness freak, and most importantly, a meditator, a sadhak who's been on the path for so many years. And I wanted to bring him on to share with you guys how he makes presentations, because his outlook is very different. You know, if I were to get you a very corporate guy, then that's different. But Deepankar's presentations are fresh, and his style of thinking is very different, and he's fun. So can we please have Deepankar on the screen? Ashutosh, can you spotlight Deepankar?
Yes, sir.
Hi.
And can we all give a big, big, big online applause to Deepankar?
Hi, Bhaiya. Thank you so much for the introduction.
Yes, Deepankar. So can you guys see Deepankar? I can't. Is he on the spotlight? Hold on, Ashutosh, can you?
But just checking.
Yeah, I don't think he's on the spotlight. Ashutosh, you'll have to spotlight Deepankar.
Yes, sir.
I think, yeah, now it's done.
Yeah, I did that just now. Okay. So all of you can see Deepankar now? All right. So let's give a round of applause to Deepankar. And over to you, Deepankar. Go ahead.
So, hi, everyone. How's everyone doing? You can just give thumbs up here. So, I've not been taking too many online sessions, but, I thank Virat Bhaiya for such a nice introduction. And I think it's also because of his constant pushing that somewhere all the skills that I have got, he's encouraged me to share them. And in fact, the same workshop even happens now in the induction week of the MBA program. So, so it's not like I'm doing this for the first time. So you'll have something tried, tested that works, that applies to fields, any kind of field that you're in. Because I'm sure you're quite a varied audience. Someone must be doing business. Some of y'all must be students. Some of y'all just want to learn something new. So I'm glad, everybody's here, excited, encouraging. I can see all the faces. It looks pretty enthusiastic to me. So that's great. All you need to do is really keep up the enthusiasm. And I want to make sure we learn something new that each one of us gets to keep with us over a period of time so that we can use it anywhere. Basically, if you see, the entire point of a presentation is to get yourself out and to get a message conveyed in its most crudest form. That's what a presentation is. Whether you do it on a PPT, whether you're a public speaker, whether you're just voicing your opinion, whether you're selling something. Okay, tomorrow, some of y'all right now must be in sales. You're always making presentations. So I've put down some things like more than the tools to make presentations. I actually want to address how we can go to the very basic roots of what a presentation is and why we do it in the first place. So I'm going to share my screen with everyone. I'm just going to do that right now. And just tell me when you see it.
Yeah, we
Can
see
you
your
all see
screen.
this?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Yeah, just a second. I think I'll do it again.
Dipankar, thoda na, you are audible, no problem. If you can
Huh.
speak up a little bit, it'll be even
Okay.
better.
Okay. Is now better?
Yeah, much
I
better.
think I'll just hold it a little closer.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it
yeah.
will do.
And you can throw in Hindi in the middle.
Okay. I'll do that. Okay, fine. So just a second. Just go to. Can you all still see the screen?
Yeah, we can see the screen.
Okay, fine, good. So what does it say? It's on full screen, right now?
It's full screen, says
Okay,
making
great,
killer
perfect.
presentations.
So like I said, I want to make sure you guys make killer presentations, and I mean it. So if we get everything right from scratch, if we get it right, I'm sure each one of us can make really great presentations for whatever purpose we need. So I think if you recognize this, I'm sure right from the beginning, from school, from college, or in office, you will be very, very familiar with the situation, if I'm not wrong, right? So everywhere, usually it so happens that when we're giving presentations, the person giving the presentation is giving the presentation, and usually for the others, it's about probably taking a nap. They've exaggerated it here, but the whole point is sometimes it can get so overwhelming that it's not every presentation is going to be as interesting or as encouraging. And usually what happens is, even when you're going up there, even after knowing what it's like to be on the participant side, somewhere we still end up doing the same thing, and then everybody else feels the same way. Well, I certainly hope they don't, but that's why we are here to correct it. So I just want to ask some basic questions. Y'all can just put it in the chat. And I just want to ask you, why do we make presentations in the first place? Y'all can just write it to keep it visual, okay? Visual communication, okay, that's good. To share information, correct? Share ideas, okay? To put our ideas in front of people, to tell a story, okay? To get your message across, to engage audiences, to convey ideas, okay? Share a message. Okay, go on. Why do we do it? Like, what's the whole purpose? Like, you can just submit a report, right? If you have an assignment, you can just submit a written document. It has so much more scope for details, writing, etc. To make it interactive, very, very important point. To share knowledge, to represent your thoughts better, to catch the eye, to convey our view. So everything that I see here is basically allowing you to convey your point better, correct? In one way, to convince. Someone's written convince in caps, and I like that answer very much. So I'll just go over some basics. You could have different scenarios, search results. Now, each one of you all were asked to do what is the impact on businesses post COVID-19. So it was a sort of a research assignment, correct? You all looked up some details, you all found out what industries are affected, what industries aren't affected, what businesses are doing to cope up. And then you put in your details that this is what is happening. To correct it, this is what you can do. So these are the actions. So you put across your point of what is the situation right now. It was like a research. Education, a concept or a theory. A lot of your comments here was, teaching a new concept, teaching a new theory to communicate, etc. So every time you want to make learning, I've never been able to read out of a book and just understand things. I always needed someone there to visualize it for me. And a lot of y'all had mentioned visualization. So visualization is a very important part in terms of the education and explaining somebody a concept or a theory which might be otherwise difficult to understand just by reading it. Selling something. So either you're a product or a service or a business, you're always selling something or the other. In an interview, you're selling yourself. Okay. So at any given point of time, you're trying to convey what a benefit a product or a service or this business is going to give you. That is also a presentation. And last is planning. If whoever is from corporate, or say suppose you're from college and you're planning your entire annual event, you're going to have some sort of a planning, you're going to have some sort of a hierarchy, you need to explain all of these things. So it's best put in a presentation and conveyed to your seniors or your teachers or whoever. But the main point, like I said, someone had put in very caps, it was convince, and I would put that as persuasion. Okay. So the common point of any of this, all of this, is to persuade your audience in a much better way. Because now if you've been given a chance to stand there and present your data, you have the chance to use anything that's on your screen to persuade the point that you want to, right? So if you are essentially at the end of the day persuading somebody for something, or you're teaching somebody, or you're putting down some certain guidelines, it is essentially persuasion. So everything that you're going to do in a presentation circles around the idea of persuading your audience. So how you do it, we'll just go into that now. So tell me some of the challenges that you all face now. I think some of you all had 3 days to do this, some of you all had 5 days to do this. What were the challenges that you faced while doing this presentation? Like basic, in fact, this presentation or any other presentation that you've done before, either in your college, school, or your office, research work, information overload, statistics, okay? I saw a lot of data and a lot of presentations that was collection of data, summarizing, finding content, making it short, starting point unclear. Okay, this is a very, very good point. Where do you start from? Often you have a topic in hand and then you decide, okay, fine, I know I have to do this, but where do I begin? So updated data wasn't available, relevant content. So a lot of things, and if I was to summarize, I would put one as, time management. Now, I think 3 or 5 days was enough for everybody. But say, suppose if you were given this 1 day ago, you would definitely want to scram around for time to make sure you're doing a good job. It also depends on how demanding your presentation is going to be. Second, this was an individual attempt. But for lot of you all who would have done this in colleges, in fact, teamwork can either make things much faster or make things completely out of control. So if your team isn't on one page and if there is no clarity within team members, this can become quite a mess, correct? Clarity, someone said right there, you don't know where to start. So that's a very important thing. You have to decide on. You have to know, you need to have the clarity of what exactly is this presentation asking you. Okay. Now, I want to just ask you again one question over here because it's very important. When Virat sir mentioned that the impact on businesses post COVID-19, what exactly did you get from that point? What was he trying to ask you? Was it the impact on businesses? Was it new business opportunities? Was it how businesses are coping up? Are these all the same? Are these different? Does it matter? Can you tell me, because I saw all the presentations, and of course, if the topic is the same, all of them should be the same, right? Adaptability, how we have adapted, impact and new opportunity, how COVID affects businesses, what are the changes before and after, all in one. Change in businesses, how business affected due to COVID. So if you see, although it's the same question, they are very, very different approaches. Okay. I just want to tell you that if we were looking at the impact that COVID-19 has on businesses, can either say this is how businesses are affected and this is how they're coping up with it, or we can say this is how new business opportunities have arose. There are a lot of people who've written about new business opportunities. There's also, you can just sit and analyze, the total economic crash that has happened because of COVID-19, because all of these industries have started falling apart. So if you have the clarity of where you're going, you will be very clear in what you have to do. And individual perspective makes a difference. Definitely individual perspective makes a difference. But when someone is asking you something, you need to ask them what exactly is it that they're demanding from you. Okay, so many times it can so happen that you have a certain idea of something, and then you present your idea, but that may not be what is expected to be done. So cross questioning that at the beginning is a very, very important task. Lot of you all mentioned planning. Okay, planning is also a very, very important challenge, because you can have so much information, so much detail, so much data, but if you cannot plan around it, it is going to be very difficult to do. So I have put down some very, very simple, easy to understand points of view, which are guidelines. If you can keep in mind for any presentation that you do, it will be of superb help to you. So the first thing is content. Obviously, content is going to be the heart of your presentation. Okay, you need to make sure you're having the right content, the right information, the right research, and that is going to build upon everything else that you're going to do. Second, you have structure. By structure, I mean you need to have a sequence, you need to have an idea, you need to have a way in which you want to put this ahead. You want to portray your idea. Now, if say, we'll take the example that was given to you. If we are putting the structure, say, if we are clear about what we're saying, that if COVID-19 has affected the travel industry, how badly has it affected it? Who are the major players that are affected? Which players in the world are suffering the most? What is the revival plan? And how fast can this be revamped? And can this industry even be saved? So this becomes 6 clear steps. If you're putting in a logic, if you see, these steps are actually making your point very, very clear about one very specific industry, and you're covering all the points around. And each one of them has to be connected to each other. We'll take a little more of that with examples. Oh, sorry, I put the wrong order. So third is design. Design, now we know we hear this very often. We hear infographics, and we hear visualization. And a lot of people mentioned visualization, but a lot of PPTs that we received are still very text. So there's definitely a reason why we all know this is very, very important, but we need to know how to use it, how easily. Yeah, Pradeep, you raised your hand. Tell me, you can answer your question. Yash, can I take questions later only, or
I
should I
think
take them now?
questions can all be done later, Dipankar, in one shot.
Okay, fine. Okay.
Yeah.
So coming back, so design is a very, very important aspect. Now, because the more visual you make your presentation, the more purposeful it gets, the more easier it gets to understand rather than plain text. And the last one is delivery. Delivery is how you yourself, your body language, and everything else, how prepared you are. If you have given this presentation in the mirror or to your parents or to your friends 10 times, you will have it at the tip of your fingertips, because that is how efficient delivery is going to work. Because no matter how much content is on the slide, you need to make sure that content actually gets spoken. And more than the content being on the slide, the content should actually be in your head, right? Because your slides again are just going to be supporting. Let's take these one at a time. So content. So is everybody, can I just see a raise of hand? Everybody's following, everything's fine. I think so far it's been pretty simple. So everything's good, right? Right. So let's go ahead into content, something deeper, and we'll also maybe even take an example of how content is better explained. So one is define your purpose and keep proving it. Okay. Now, when I say define your purpose, I've been saying this from the beginning of the whole session, that if you are clear about where you want to go, every step that you take is going to move in that direction. I mean, in fact, this even applies philosophically to life, but for now we stick to presentations. So, you know, every time you're saying clearly that, okay, fine, I want to investigate the extent to which the hospitality industry can recover from COVID-19 situation. So everything you say, you're going to talk about, you know, what is the rate at which this is decreasing? What is the effect of the lockdown? What is the extent to which probably, you know, if I'm talking about hospitality, let's take restaurants and hotels. You know, if people can't eat at restaurants and hotels, you have Zomato and Swiggy. If we have data from Zomato and Swiggy saying that, you know, businesses are still getting 60 or 70% of their revenue thanks to delivery services, we know that businesses in that area are still likely to improve. In fact, they might see a reduction in costs of rent. So that might make their businesses even better. So I'm just giving you one example. Second, use numbers and be selective about display. Now, when I say use numbers, it's always any presentation. If you can give with data, it will always be very, very convincing, because data is always going to take you in a way in which you're giving something solid. You're not just giving your opinion, you're giving some real data. Any kind of real data will always help you prove your point better, because it's not coming from you, the interpretation is coming from you, but the data is actually from a legitimate source. Next, we have identified the objective and set your parameters. Now, although this may sound very, very similar to your purpose, but each one of your points, when you're saying, when you're deciding that you have to prove something, you yourself are going to set the parameters as to how you're going to prove it. So if like we said, we'll go on the same example. If the hospitality, hotels and restaurants industries affected severely because people can't go out to eat, if you're talking about the recovery rates of this industry, we're going to probably talk about, like I just mentioned, you know, what is the extent to which home delivery services are helping. If it is helping, yes, okay, fine. What is the extent to which costs have been reduced? If costs are reducing, it helps the businesses, okay, fine. So what is helping the business? Cost reduction, additional services, home delivery services, and maybe probably, you know, you can even add some of your own details, as in, you know, tie-ups or tiffin services or whatever, for businesses to have constant revenue. Last is be relevant throughout. A lot of times it is the introduction page, or it is somewhere in the middle page, or we always have a background to the case page, which we tend to just talk about and just talk about it, and it might not even have relevance at all, because the topic might be interesting, it might make sense, but is it relevant to the point that you want to prove? So at any given point of time, for anything that you say on any slide that you're presenting, if you're clear about why you're saying it, everything you say is going to add a step to what you want to prove. So everyone's following? Can I see a thumbs up? Great, thanks. So let's watch a short video right now. Okay, pay attention to this video, and everything he says, I want you to answer questions also, because it's going to be exactly based on what we just decided. Can you all hear him? Just raise your hand.
Yes.
The App Store turns 10. And
Hold on.
this month, the App Store turns 10. And in these 10 years, the App Store has fundamentally changed the way we all live. It's enabled countless new companies, created tens of millions of jobs, spawned entirely new industries, and it has forever changed our lives. The App Store is the world's largest app marketplace And we now welcome over 500 million weekly visitors. This is mind-blowing. It's the most incredible app marketplace that the world has ever seen. We're also happy to announce that this week, we're going to achieve another huge milestone. The money that developers have earned through the App Store will top $100 billion. This is beyond remarkable. The App Store is clearly the best place for you to be rewarded for your hard work and creativity. Now, at Apple, we know that developers are a powerful group of creators, that they can achieve and they can develop anything that they can imagine with their code. We want...
So, like I said, I'll go back to the previous slide and tell me exactly what was his purpose of saying this. You can use the chat. What was that purpose of that 2 minutes that we saw? What was his main idea? What was he trying to convey? Showcase the success of the App Store. Okay. Apple developer Ban Jao is the target, motivating developers. I heard there was about apps with numbers, motivation, etc. There was one which I read which says Apple developer Ban Jao. Don't you agree with that? So everything that he said in that 1.5 minutes is just encouraging Apple developers to use the platform. What did he say about why? How did he convince them? What numbers did he use? He used numbers about revenue, correct? He used numbers about the growing number of apps. He used numbers about the growing number of visitors. Okay. Not only the number of visitors, but how fast they're growing. So what he's trying to show is that he's enticing the entire developer market to become an Apple developer, because this is going to be a potential stage for you, correct? So again, like I said, his objective was very clear. It was to attract developers on the App Store. Of course, they have more developers on the App Store. They're certainly going to have more apps. More apps means people will prefer buying the iPhone. So that's their objective. And they kept proving it at every point by making it clear how beneficial it is for the Apple developer to come on board and actually learn from it. And if you see at any given point of time, he was super relevant, right? Because there wasn't one extra piece of number or information that he gave that was not relevant to that point. There's, in fact, I'm going to send the links also. You all can watch a later part of that. But you see, within 1.5 minutes, he made a very, very powerful and very, very clear message, right? Makes sense, everyone? So this is about content. Let's go on to our next structure.
Next month,
Hold on.
the App Store turns 10.
So the next is structure. Now, what we mean by structure is basically a whole layout of what exactly your plan is. You know, what happens is usually, I mean, we are all guilty of doing this. How many of y'all, when you're given a presentation, open up Microsoft PowerPoint and it says title slide, it says title, it says subtitle, it gives you bullet points and you start filling them up. Raise your hands. I am guilty of doing this myself. Okay. I see a lot of hands being raised. And you know what? We don't have a choice, right?
Those who are raising hands, Deepu, those who are not raising hands are lying.
So, you know, look, we are all guilty of this. We all went to college. In fact, if you even followed the PowerPoint templates, it's fine. In fact, we used to just buy them, or not even buy them, download them from SlideShare, mix and match some things and put it up. Okay. But obviously, every time we did that, we didn't learn anything in that subject. So somewhere, if you are, like you said, now you are clear that, you know, if you're making a presentation, you need to know your subject well. That is why content came first before anything else. So Now that your subject is there, let's go on. So tell your audience a story. Don't just convey information. Okay. We have this tendency to put up all our details on the slide and one by one read out the relevant ones. Right? It happens everywhere. We do it, when we're sitting on the other end, we said, "Ye to bas pad raha hai yaar. Ye to main bhi pad leta." And so it happens all the time. You always feel, okay, you know what? Why don't you just give this to me in the print? I'll only read it. Sometimes, in fact, the presenter who is presenting doesn't know what he's written. Everybody's having a laugh. Okay. No one is learning anything, but that's a fun class. Once in a while, that's okay. But if you really, really want to take someone's attention, you will tell them a story. And when I say a story, I mean, what is the story? Why do we remember stories? Everyone remembers stories. Everyone remembers stories that your grandmother told, right? Everyone remembers random stories like Little Red Riding Hood. It has no relevance in our life. Okay. But why do we remember Little Red Riding Hood? You can just put it in the chat. I really want to know. Like, just put some thought into it. Like, why do we even have this in our heads? Real life experiences. Okay. It's iconic. Empathy, you connect. They have been told many times. It's deep, you pay attention because they're catchy. Do you also realize that you can relate to them? Okay, that's a very good point. You can relate to them. We create images. People remember stories. Story can connect personally. Human emotion involved. So you know what? You can use this even in a boring corporate presentation because we are all humans and we are all objects of emotion. Okay? I mean, humans of emotion objects. So it's very important that you use emotion to convey. You will connect and then you will then convey that information. Also, one more thing about a story is that it is very well connected. Each sequence leads to the next. I am saying a very, very obvious thing, but if you think about it, a story is not random. It's not 5 things happening in 5 different places. That sometimes happens in our presentations. Okay. Why? Because we have 5 team members. One team member is supposed to do introduction. One team member is supposed to do the body. One team member is just supposed to come and say, "Thank you for the presentation. I can introduce my team. This is A, B, C, D, E." They could have very well said it themselves, but the last guy needed some job to do and he came on the last day. So you hand over that slide to him. Okay. So now, if you change this whole aspect and if you really try to see that if each point actually flows into the next, you will always remember a flow. If A happens because of B, which happens because of C, you will remember ABC. It is generally, that's how people even memorize better because they connect. Next thing is 80% on planning, 20% of your time on the PPT. Okay, I'm still using the word PPT over here. Now, like I said, we're all guilty of starting with a presentation first. But let us all spend some time, reverse this entire process altogether, and start, in my opinion, with a pen and paper at any given point of time. I'll give, right, if you're all making notes, make a note of this thing called mind maps. If you go on the net and if you look at mind maps, a lot of you will already even know about it. But a mind map helps you plan what your thoughts are. Okay. Once you plan what your thoughts are, naturally, don't you think in order all the time? Have you ever, now, of course, when you're just looking, you get random thoughts through the day. But whenever you start thinking about something, always one thought leads to the next, leads to the next, leads to the next, correct? So your thoughts are always in order. You just have to make sure that the thought that is in order is being put down on paper. And for that, you need to make sure you're clear about what you want to say. And then you start making a presentation. Okay, so in fact, even if you are making the entire thing on a piece of paper, and even if it's one piece of paper, but you have it very clear, you can put that one piece of paper on the wall and you can talk about it, right? If I was to give you something like a subject that is very, very dear to you, okay, would you need a PPT to talk about it? No, right? You will have all the information in your head. And so that people follow, you're just going to put pointers on the PPT. Right? So always literally follow this rule. Until it's the last day, don't begin any presentation by starting with a PowerPoint template. Your template is just a way to convey your presentation. The presentation should be done on paper because it's your thoughts. Next, we have plan a sequence and build up your story. So if you see every story, every movie, okay, now, if you see, like, I'm talking about stories, movies, and it's, presentation is supposed to be serious, and that's what the concept is. This is like a proper thing to do. But if you see, they're all very, very related. And like I said, at the end of the day, it's all emotion that you're conveying to actually get your word across. Okay, so
Deepu, Deepu, sorry to interrupt you. Little louder, please.
Okay, sorry, I'll hold it.
Yeah.
I think now it's better. Sorry.
Yep.
So, like I said, if you plan a sequence and build up your story, each step is going to be the next step to building up what you actually want to say. Okay, so you need to make sure that every point is connected. Every point adds to the other point. And you always have a climax at the movie or the story. The hero finally beats the villain, takes the heroine home. So you need to have that hero-heroine meeting point in your presentation. I'll give you an example. This might sound a little abstract, but I hope you're getting my point, right? So I'm using these examples. I hope it's getting conveyed. Last is a repeated point. Don't tell the audience a story. Don't just convey information. Because if you remember our first slide, that is what happens. People read out of the slide and no one wants to listen. Okay. Even you don't want to listen. So that, so don't do that also in the first place. Let's go with another example. Now, Apple is actually one of my favorite company who's giving great presentations. There'll be one more from Apple and then we'll take one more example from elsewhere. Y'all can hear?
This is a day I've been looking forward to for 2.5 years. Every once in a while, a revolutionary product comes along that changes everything. And Apple has been, well, first of all, one's very fortunate if you get to work on just one of these in your career. Apple's been very fortunate. It's been able to introduce a few of these into the world. In 1984, we introduced the Macintosh. It didn't just change Apple, it changed the whole computer industry. In 2001, we introduced the first iPod. And it didn't just change the way we all listen to music. It changed the entire music industry. Well, today, we're introducing 3 revolutionary products of this class. The first one is a widescreen iPod with touch controls. The second is a revolutionary mobile phone. And the third is a breakthrough internet communications device. So, 3 things: a widescreen iPod with touch controls, a revolutionary mobile phone, and a breakthrough internet communications device. An iPod, a phone, and an internet communicator. An iPod, a phone. Are you getting it? These are not 3 separate devices. This is one device. And we are calling it iPhone. Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone.
So I think you all got that quite clear, right? So hold on.
This month, the App
So again, you know, if I was to tell you from this point of view, he was telling a story at least for the first 2 minutes, right? He told us about the history, he told us about how the products made a difference. He was, and I don't think, did any one of you all find anything that he said irrelevant? No, right? You all can nod, I can see. So, what was out of these points, what do you think is the most important point over here that is explained in his example right now? If you can write in the chat. What did he do? Climax, okay. So he created that climax, he created that sequence, he built that hype, right? Tell a story, exactly. So what he did was exactly building up interest, success, reinvent the phone, repetition. He built up the story very, very well. Someone wrote, and that is what I was looking for. So he built up the story so well that you were ready to listen to the answer, right? So he made you want to answer the question. So that, of course, you know, every time you're not going to get a presentation to introduce one of the most revolutionary devices, but it's important that we take inspiration from the way in which he said it, you know, because he spoke very little, but he built up the capacity. And he built up that capacity. Now, you know, how long did it take him? Barely took him a minute and a half, right? It's not that, you know, now we have, when we are giving presentation, you know how much we have? 20 minutes, we have 15 minutes. Usually it's 15 to 20 minutes. So squeezing in 1 minute of climax building, do you think it's possible? It is definitely possible, right? So that is one takeaway from them. We'll go to the next point, which is design. Okay. Now, all of us have heard, now we've graduated from going to large paragraphs, to bullet points, to charts and photos, correct? I'm sure everyone, each one of us has had that evolution at least, because some things become very, very obvious, right? Can I see a show of hands? Like, definitely this is the logic that you're using. If somebody is using anything else, you know, please tell me. I can also use that for inspiration. So one thing is that, you know, you need to understand, I'm going to use some examples also in this. Let's take one thing at a time. So convey minimally only what's needed. Okay. We have this tendency to fill up our slides with all the information that is possible, correct? Now, if you're going to do that, there is going to be nothing left for you to actually add in the value, correct? Because the whole point of you being there is so that you can actually be the presentation and not your slide. 10, 20, 30 rule. Now, in any presentation, I am very, very certain that not more than 10 slides, not more than 20 minutes, and not less than a 30 size font. When I say 30 size font, I'm just giving you a guideline. This is just for you to understand that if you start following this, you know, first of all, you have to convey in as little space as possible. You have to use as little text as possible. and you have to make sure you're time bound. Okay, because usually if any presentation, if you have sat for it yourself, do you remember anything they said post 10 minutes also? You usually don't, right? So usually 10 minutes is the time you start cutting off. So that is when you need to really start re-questioning yourself. That's why I said it's important to have a structure. If you keep your audience engaged in the clarity on your connectivity of your presentation, that is going to help. Then we have transitions. Okay, transitions are not meant for entertainment. You have hundreds of things on PowerPoint, but if you're going to have text jumping and dancing around, I don't think it's going to add any value. And last is, when you do use transitions, just make sure you maximize the slide usage. Okay, so in fact for this, let's go with an example. Now there is one example I have, which is basically a before and after of a presentation. And so this was one social initiative. You all can see Saksham Bharat written on my screen. Yeah, okay. So basically this was a social initiative about how happiness relates to a country's economy. Okay, this is quite a wide relevant connection that is drawn. But this presentation was aiming to address how happiness can lead to better GDP. So if you see the first slide, you have, definitely you can have something from the net. It looks fine, actually. I don't think there's a problem with that. But my point is, we have a lot of good photos. And like I said, a lot of you all mentioned good visualization. Okay, this is an example of visualization. You have a great, very bright first page, talks about diversity, gives an idea about your country. So it gives an entire patriotic feel. Okay, this versus this. Now, how many of y'all feel the second slide is speaking more powerfully than the first one? You can read that. So there's quite a lot of hands raised. So the whole idea is that, you need to have, if you see this picture also, this picture has taken the entire slide, and you have your information also very, very clearly laid out. So this is just one of the ways in which you can use pictures. Now, usually when we use pictures, we tend to use pictures in the box that they come in. So if it's a rectangular picture, I'll see a rectangle on my screen. Okay. Now, a good way to use pictures is to actually have lesser of them and make sure that they're covering your whole screen. Okay. Now, what I have done here very simply is that this, well, I can actually tell you on the next slide. Let's just go next. So this was their initial slide. It starts off with a question. So in terms of content, I think, like, if you can give your opinions also, it's a great way to start a presentation because you're engaging the audience. Okay. So approach gets a plus point over here because you're just jumping straight to the point of what according to you is happiness. And you're asking a question. So naturally your audience is also involved in this process. You're not just going to start talking yourself. But, instead of this, if we have a picture that speaks about it, although it's very colorful, the earlier slide, but don't you think this picture conveys more information than that blot of color over there? Although that, you will have, like I said, I'm just trying to demonstrate that you will have so many templates sometimes that you will need to know that, whether this template is really useful for me or not. Okay. This was a very simple point. All it was done was that this image was used and your point is made very clear. And over here also, if you're seeing what according to you is happiness, not what is happiness. So you're conveying each point very clearly, focusing on what has to be said, and you're just making sure that is always in the highlight. So again, one more slide, nice patch of plot, very attractive, very colorful, but I'm not sure how much information it's conveying. But if you look at this, the background itself paints a happy picture, correct? So happiness is your very nature, it's in the present moment, it's the direction which life tends to flow. Okay, so the text is very, very relevant to the photo. And instead of having a photo on the side or putting it, now if we were to put photo on the slide, we would always have to compromise on how large our text is. You know, in the previous slide, I mentioned that make sure your text size is large. This is what I mean. This is how you can even do it. Make sure if you're, and also one very, very simple hack for everybody here is that if you see, the picture is a little dull. That's why you can see the text. It might not always be possible for you to just put text over any picture entirely. So what you do, you simply take a shape, you make the shape large, and you reduce the transparency. That is all that has been done over here. Okay. So you just make sure that you do that, and you can decide how transparent or opaque you want to keep. So at the same time, you have your picture and you have the text also. Now, again, this was the before slide. What is the impact of unhappiness? Now, again, this was clearly a template that was taken. So the approach, I appreciate the approach because again, it's a very, it's an interrogative approach. You know, in this presentation was meant to ask the audience and meant for them to answer, and the audience was definitely engaged. But is this talking about unhappiness at all? I mean, none of this slide really makes me feel what they're trying to say. The text has become better over here. It just looks nicer, but it is still the same thing. Now, going from this to something like this. Okay. Don't you think this makes more sense? You can all put your thumbs up, sure. So again, it's absolutely the same concept. You're just taking a photo, you're putting a dark color on top of it, and then you're using the text on top. In fact, look at this. This is, I would say, this is a further improvement to that. So very clearly, now everything that had to be spoken on this slide, now this slide was spoken on about for 10 minutes on this one slide. And all it needed was this question. Everything else came from the audience. Okay, that is the power of visual. So because the content was clear, the structure was clear, you know, you spoke about happiness, and then you brought about the idea of unhappiness. Then you're asking the audience, how do you feel happy when you feel unhappy? The audience is always engaged. But this way, you know, when you have this in the back and when you're talking about it, you're already keeping it clear what you're talking about. Again, template, unhappiness impacts personal, social, and economical environment. Same thing put down in a more clear way. Now, we were also personal, social, and economical are all interrelated. You know, if you have personal problems, you're not going to behave well in society. And if society is going to have problem as a whole, it's going to impact the economy. And if the economy is impacted, again, it comes back some way to you. So very simply, there is nothing much done over here. It's just 3 arrows and 3 symbols, which are conveying your point. Okay. And in fact, you have hundreds and millions of shapes in PowerPoint as clip art, as shapes. This has just been picked up from there. But again, because of this photo over here, you have everything very clearly given. Now, I was mentioning about text effects. So because, you know, you might not always have very qualitative slides. You will have quantitative also. You will have to explain numbers and figures and statistics. Like we said, it's important to put that. So whoever had made this had thought that, you know, hey, I can make my numbers jump. So he literally made them jump. Okay. And this was their attempt at making it visual also. So the guy with the calculator, I don't know what he's doing. The guy with the job, he's looking for a job. Okay, fine. You know, it's talking, why? Because it's talking about unemployment. So there is some relevance. They're talking about unemployment. There is a photo. So I see and I talk about it. But again, as an audience, I am either trying to read this sentence or I have, I'm on the last seat and I'm enjoying a meal. Okay. So if this was to be made a little more clearer, okay, there's one more. So there's medicines also. So again, you know, they come by whenever they want, however they want. So they're not really adding value, but you can certainly use transitions for value, but this is not how you do it. Now the same point, okay, fine. I was just fooling around with that part. Hold on. So same point, but conveyed a little more clearly. I would probably say a lot more clearly if you agree with me. So what's happening here is that we have collated all this information. Sorry. We have collated all this information, and we visually put the most important points through. Okay. And we have clearly segregated what each one of them means. Okay. Whenever we use any kind of symbolic representation, it, at least now you can see this guy's, you can really see this figure is quite sad. Okay. Now, I mean, there's nothing else that this figure talks about, except maybe he must be sitting on the bathroom, but no, he is sad. Okay. He's holding his head. So 1 of 4 people you meet in the US has undergone depression. Okay. Now, I could have said 25% of the population, but instead of saying 25% of the population, you say 1 in 4. Now, 1 in 4 just suddenly sounds like so much more. Like every 4 people, you know, imagine one of them has this problem. So it's just a matter of conveying it differently, but the same number conveyed across more easily. Now, you have people who are depressed. Next, you have this section over here, which says 28% increase in the prescription. Okay, so although there is a line over here, this line was important, it had to be there. It said for depression related issues reported by the NHS. This is nearly 43 million a year. So this number is also important, but it is not so important that I put it on the highlight. So my highlight has one clear point and everything else can revolve around it. So 7 chances of being unemployed for those out of work due to depression. Okay, so again, this guy is clearly sad because he doesn't have a job. So you're essentially highlighting 3 very, very clear components, and you have not done much. You have just rearranged everything. Okay, it is just that you have given each point a very clear symbol and a very clear heading. And if you want, you can always write supporting text, but if you keep it lesser, it's better. It allows you to make your opinion much more heard out when you're speaking. Next, okay, fine. So I think this is a decent example, I think, of what I wanted to convey over here. We'll go back to our slides. So you all got the point, right? Now, this is how, you know, even if design, the way design is, this is one way you can really use it effectively. I'll give you a lot of other inspiration also to follow. So the best way is to follow examples. Okay. Now, initially, even when I started, I also started with PowerPoint and I also started with templates. But at the end of the day, I somewhere find myself seeing every advertisement on TV or every app that I use on my phone, or in fact, any kind of, even if you read journals or articles or newspapers, you will see that everybody has a visual element to it because everybody understands that, you know, there is a value in visualization. So the last is, okay, fine. In fact, do you guys want one more example on design? Was that interesting, or do you want me to go to the last part? Y'all want more examples on design? Because then I have one more example that is sort of an MBA example. That could be a good one. So while we were in MBA, we had this one challenge where we were supposed to introduce the idea of insurance, the insurance policy, in a time when Akbar was waging a war against India. Okay, so I'm just giving you the context just so that you can relate to the information. You don't really need to understand the whole thing, but basically it was a presentation where we were supposed to convey a proposition of selling insurance policy. Okay, so that's why somewhere we made it English and, you know, Akbarish, so Jannat ul Richards insurance policy. This is just a fun thing. Now, we had to start with the background. Okay, now for every case that you make, you know, even if it's in your office or if you're addressing a certain problem, you will always give a background. You will always set a stage, you know, as to what situation are you talking about? Because once you make your audience clear about what is the situation, like even in our COVID-19 presentations, it is first important to even talk about why we are having a problem and how we are having a problem. Because if the problem has been identified very, very clearly, you can actually give a solution to that problem, right? Because you have made that problem very clear. Again, over here, this is just the background, Akbar's era, So we are just defining the time. We're just saying what kind of market it is, what kind of consumers they are. It's a European company. We are portraying ourselves as, and insurance is a new concept. Now, these are very, very straightforward points. Okay. Now I can say this, but what happens again for these are 5 things, but they're 5 non-connected things. These are 5 facts. Okay. Usually when you have facts, you don't have a connection. So it's difficult for somebody to catch everything you're saying. So this is what we said we'll do instead. So while we are speaking about it, this was the slide at the back, so that everything we say, the judges are clearly, they know about what we're talking about. This is the time period. Again, if you see, very, very clear symbolic representation, clear large text. And in case you want to add details, you can definitely add details. So 1571, this is the time period, what kind of a market we have, what kind of purchasing power of the customer. It's a new concept and we're the first to enter. So again, very, very visual, very, very clear. And everything else that has to be said will be said by you. So now we had to decide, now this is a little MBA jargon, but again, like I said, whether you're an, you know anything about business, MBA or not, it really does not matter. If I was to talk about this, even if this was my slide and I spoke about this very, very well, what are the chances that someone will understand strategy or follow, maybe if I speak even 10 minutes on strategy or 10 minutes on a plan that I have? It's very, very difficult for somebody to connect and catch on to. So the audience usually loses interest. So if the same thing can be conveyed in a more clear way. Now, this is the exact same information as this, but it is just put in a way where you're actually making it look like a strategy. So whenever, like, for example, now we've used this for this case study. You can use this for maybe, I don't know, some new system that you want to implement in your office, or some new, if you're maybe, you know, in your, have a role in your school as a student leader or something. This can be how you can explain your, how your new venture or your new way of doing your annual event to do. So again, it is graphical. This graphic does not have anything fancy. This is just lines, arrows, and everything that is available to you in your PowerPoint. But this whole idea, again, now this idea just came because we were sketching it out. What we were trying to convey was that if I want to take my product to the market, what will be my approach? Okay. It might sound a little abstract, but at least if you're getting how we're visualizing everything, I think it should do, right? Can I see some hands up? Great. Okay. Thanks. Now, again, another slide where we were trying to talk about what our products are going to be, how our channels are going to be, or different products are going to have different channels based on different customers. Okay. Like if you just take the examples of mobiles also. Now, if you have Xiaomi, Xiaomi is, you know, targeted towards the middle segment. You have Samsung, which has targeting probably all the but if you implement specific cost-effective phones. So obviously they're not all going to be the same. Same goes even for this product. Same thing, but conveyed in a much clearer way. So this is our product, this is our pricing, this is our channel. Very, very clearly given. And if you see, I will later send, in fact, with Virat Bhaiya, I will put all of these examples in one Drive file and share it with everyone. So that I'm not just faking it. All the information that we have put on this paragraph is actually conveyed in just these 3 points. So again, you're making sure that you are the center of the presentation and not the words on the slide. We'll take one more slide and then we'll continue. So again, the message of the campaign. Now, this is something that was very, very subjective. And again, we wanted to convey a different message to a different customer segment. So here clearly we're saying, you know, using love and core for soldiers, educating people, message to the business class. Now, of course, we are just writing this down as it is. But again, I'm not sure who my market over here is. And it's not even very clear from all this that what my message is really. I mean, only thing is the message of the campaign, the title is really talking about everything, but nothing in the content. The same thing if changed to something like this. These are the three main people we are targeting. This is the message that we're giving to each, and this is the approach that we are using for conveying that message. So now you're clear, we are selling insurance, selling insurance to army people because you're going to sell it to them as a message of family security. If something happens to them during the war, who's going to take care of them? So it's going to be emotional and it's going to be love. It's also going to be fear. Okay. So again, fear comes in the emotion part. Now, stakeholders as a business class, the people who are a little elite, who are part of the King's community and everything, we tell them, show it to them as a long-term investment. Insurance is taken as a long-term investment for a lot of people. And the approach will be educational because it's a new concept. They have their own ways of investment. We're introducing something new. So this is purely going to be educational in how this is a great investment for you. The last is the common man. Common man is just safety savings. If something happens tomorrow, say somebody else takes us over, some other, maybe from another era, some other guy is going to come and going to capture our country like China is trying to do right now. They used to face it on every 10, 15 years basis. So again, it's emotional and fear of the future. So I am quite sure that even if you didn't understand the beginning, what this whole presentation was, in this slide, you understood what I'm trying to sell, who I'm trying to sell it to, and how I'm trying to sell it to them, right? If it makes sense, I would like to see a show of hands. So do you see just one slide was enough to summarize everything that I had to say? One slide, really. I can actually put everything over here apart from the background. I can just put everything over here, even about it, every major point that I want to say. And elaboration is always something that you should be doing. Your presentation should just have your points. So again, this can go on, but like I said, I'll make sure that I give this example to you so that you can go through it. Last, we'll do the delivery part. So again, a great presentation on paper, but unless it just put one word. In fact, you have just skipped the words. You have put only symbols. But if you don't know what to say and when to say it, it's actually going to be a disaster. So you see, each one of these points is connected to each other and they all hold equal importance. So in delivery, as I've been saying, your PPT is only for reference. You are the presentation. At any given point of time, if your screen goes off, light cuts off, or your boss says, I don't want to look at your presentation anymore, why don't you speak? You should be able to continue to speak what you have to say. Okay, because that's how, if it's on the tip of your fingers, tip of your tongue, whatever, you will be clear. You will not need an aid. Again, so the PowerPoint is just an aid. You have to be the presentation. Visualize whatever you can. So like you see, I showed you that example where, all of these examples, they don't have over visualization. Okay, because now when we have this tendency, we learn something new, so we change absolutely everything. So my entire presentation will have only charts, only pie graphs, or, only symbols, no words, let's keep it super minimal. Learned about minimalism somewhere, but it's very, very important to have a balance. So if you see, all of those examples had visualization, it had text, it also had supporting text, and it had a lot of structure. Okay, so visualize, but do it in a balanced way. Focus on a few things only. Now, you will have a lot of things to cover in your presentation if your subject is very, very vast. Okay. So it is important for you to narrow down that subject in a way in which you are very, very clear about what you're doing. I'm going right to the first part of content, that you are making your objective very clear. If your objective is very clear, you will try to make sure not more than 4 or 5 points you will use to convey your point across. Because even if you have 50, you will want to bring it down to 5. Okay. And like I said, one very clear example was that one slide of the insurance policy could explain the whole crux of the presentation or the whole point which we were trying to say. So make sure you're focusing on a few things and do them well. And last is interact and engage. Okay, very, very important. So unless and until your audience, either you make them responsible. Okay, you tell them that, at probably after every slide, you ask them, okay, fine, you put in a question and you ask anybody. I mean, if you have the chance to do that, or if you have a way in which within your presentation, if you're able to take their inputs, like for example, when we did it in this presentation itself, the challenges that you were facing, all those details came from you. I just listed it down. Of course, I had some idea of it decently, but again, there is some reason for which you have to be involved.
Dipankar.
Yeah.
So in the interest of time, once you're done with this, we should quickly show them a before and after from one of their slides or something, like maybe just pick one slide.
Okay.
Or something like that. Or what do you have in mind? What's your plan now?
I wanted to give them the tools to make one slide better and send it back. That's what I thought.
So
we can.
Okay, let's do that then. Okay.
We can do that now. So can I have, say, about 5 minutes?
Yeah, sure.
So I think we are mostly done. So I will just have one last. In fact, what we can do is this also can wait. We can take questions right now. And based on the questions, I can share some more examples if you'd like.
But let them actually make over one slide, no?
Okay. Right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or maybe you can show them a before after of a slide, which actually you've already shown.
Yeah.
If you want to show them from their presentation, or just open one of their presentations and give feedback, or you can just tell them take 10 minutes. You can just tell them to take 5 minutes and redo one of their slides and see if they can apply. What do you guys think?
What do you guys think? So can you do one slide from all the presentations? Everybody submitted a presentation. Take any one slide, okay, and change that slide in a way in which, in fact, if you want, even if you don't want to do it on, say, a PowerPoint, you can even do it on a piece of paper. But take one slide and change it in the way that you think is going to be most effective. If that was the key point of your presentation, how would it look like?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, Deepu. Let them do it. If they want, they can do it on the computer, or they can do it on a piece of paper. Okay. Just take one slide or whatever you've made into a presentation and see if you can make it better, at least thought process wise.
Okay. So what we can do is everyone can make it, and then we can select a few people who can actually make the presentation, because we can make them the spot host.
Yeah, they can show it on the screen. So guys, let's take about 5 to 7 minutes to actually quickly implement whatever you've learned just now. Look at your presentation, look at whatever you've made, and see if you can implement some of these tips that Dipankar just gave you. Right? You have maybe 7 minutes starting now. And Dipankar, then you can plan what would you like to do after these guys come back after 7 minutes.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Okay, you have 3 more minutes. 3 minute और हैं. Okay, done? Done? Okay. So how was it for you guys? How many of you saw a difference between what you had done and what you did now? Raise your hands. क्या फर्क देखा आपने? Maybe you can share um, in the chat window. You can share what did you see? What changed for you? You refined it further. Okay. You got more confident. Very nice. You reduce the words, says Shefali. Okay. Surabhi, you focus on the purpose. You learn to make it more visual, more creative. The flow improved, more impactful, minimalistic. Okay. Innovative. Okay. Reduce the content. Okay. More visualization. Reduce the theory. Less cramped. Very nice. Clarity of content. Very nice. Very nice. More design elements. You decluttered your presentation. Beautiful. Beautiful. Less text. Improve the structure. Okay. Okay. Crisp and clear. Okay. More images. Okay. Played with the transparency of the picture. More honest. Very nice. See the point pe aao. Okay.
Yeah, that's a
More
good
understand-
one.
है ना? Deepu.
And there's also, you know, more understanding of the problem statement. A lot of y'all have said decluttered thoughts. So, in fact, this approach, I guess, is working because you're really questioning why you're doing this in the first place, right? So, a lot of y'all have said structure, a lot of, you know, the Sida point pe aao is a very, very good point. Matlab, of course, introduction de do, thank you bhi bol do, but point pe 80% time lagao, which is can jot down my own interpretation. Of course, reduced, move from bullets to pictures, concise and focused. So, you know, these two things are going hand in hand, you know, declutter, concise, focus, clarity. So, again, you're basically just filtered out the junk, right? So, in one way, you do admit that you have filled it up with junk. I'm not saying you have, but we all have. So somewhere पता है भरने के लिए ना to make presentations look big, you know, it should be long, it should be big, it should have a lot of data. It shows that I have done something. It shows that मैंने बहुत सारी research की है, सारे facts डाल दो. It will show जब बहुत सारी research की है when your facts start to get integrated into your content of what you're saying.
As they say, less is more.
And if y'all have even done it on paper or a laptop right now, do you realize that in this short span of time, you must have used maybe 1/4 or 1/5 of the resources, may it be pages or whatever. But do you think you have still conveyed more in that piece of paper than you have in your presentation? Right? You have, right? So that entirely is the reason why we question, do we even need so many slides? You know, because if you can convey in lesser, then why not? In fact, focus on the point, convey in lesser, convey with clarity.
Beautiful. This is very, very nice. So, Deepankar, maybe now we can take a few questions. I'm sure these guys have some questions.
Yeah, sure.
So, what I'm going to recommend is Ashutosh, make sure that everybody has the ability to unmute themselves. So, Ashutosh, are you there?
Yes, Bhaiya.
So make sure everybody can unmute themselves. Guys, you raise your hands. I'm going to call out your name and then you unmute and ask your question and then you mute yourself back. Don't forget that. All right. So anybody has a question? Raise your hands, please. Chachi, go ahead.
Hi, Dipankar.
Hey, hi, Sachin.
Yeah, so Dipankar, the biggest challenge that I face while preparing a presentation is selecting the font.
Okay.
It's always a challenge as to see, while the cursive fonts look nice, the legibility is low.
Right.
So how
okay.
can you suggest us some fonts which are, which we can use, which are some standard options,
Right. Okay.
which can help us communicate clearly. They are legible and yet look nice.
Oh, this is a very good thing you said. In fact, I have a collection. So I'm going to note this down and there might be a few things that will go in a mail back to you. So this is going to be one of them. I'll give you, specific to corporate presentations, specific to just general presentations. I can give you a combination of 4 to 5 fonts. So this I can do. I will certainly do that. I think we can get a mail about it.
Deepankar, thoda loudly.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so I'll certainly compile. If you saw the presentations, I think the ones that I had used, they were, I think, quite clear, right? They were not
yes, they
fancy. They were very, very clear. So I have a few which I specifically use and I can compile them and I'll send you about 4 to 5 of them.
Yeah.
So
you
then
send
you're
them
not
to
too many.
Ashutosh, Deepankar, you send them to Ashutosh, he'll put it on the group.
Okay, fine. I'll do that. I'll put it on the
All
group.
right. Next question, raise your hands,
Thank you.
please. If you need to ask a question, raise your hands. Okay, Gunjan, go ahead. Yes, Gunjan, go ahead. Unmute yourself and speak. Do you have
Please unmute.
headphones?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can hear you now. No?
Yeah, speak into your mic.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Am I audible now?
Yes.
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 So my question is speaking first or visuals first? Like you said, you have to be like I have to be the presentation and the
Correct.
visuals are only reference, right?
Correct.
So speaking first or visuals first?
So usually what I follow in, like I have always followed, is even in these presentations, if you see, you introduce a topic either with a title or a visual, and then you start speaking about it because you have basically set the stage for what you're going to say next. So that is a good way to say it. Or in fact, even when you're moving on to something, say if you are at a point where you're just about to reach the solution, and then you say that the solution to X is Y, and then the topic comes up. So it's actually subjective, really, if you ask me. I don't want to give you a vague answer, but like I said, these are two situations. Mostly if I was to introduce something and give a background, I would put the visual first. And when I say visual, like you said, even if you saw the last insurance policy PowerPoint we made, so the background is nothing specific that is not helping me in any way to build up a story. It's just there for reference, so it can stay in the background while I speak if I want to make some special point. But if I'm giving some very, very clear, if I'm giving a strategy that involves say 5, 6, 7 steps, if I say it and then put a visual, it will be difficult for them to connect. But if I put the visual, it's already on the screen, they're following as I say it, then they will follow much better. So it's like having notes to a lecture. When you have notes, you're following the lecture better. Because if you try to explain physics just on the board without having anything in your paper, then it becomes difficult to understand.
Thank you.
Okay. Hema, please ask your question.
Hello, Bhaiya.
Hi.
I have this question that while I was preparing this particular video, this particular PPT also, I realized the concept that I had in mind was that I am not there to present. So my presentation is supposed to be complete in itself, that it could be understood by anyone who goes through it at one go.
Correct.
But you said that you are the presenter, and a presentation should have the basic, just the pointers and the visuals and all. So aren't these two concepts contradictory in their own sense?
Right. So I'll tell you now, there are two ways. What you've pointed out actually is very correct. Now, the pretext to everything that I said was that you are available to give that presentation. That is when you follow all these rules that I've given. Of course, if you have to give, basically you're giving a report. When you're giving a presentation, I mean to say that you're going to be there to convey that message in whatever way possible. So that is how the whole entire thing was based on the fact that you will be there to say. Okay. In fact, because now what you said, there is one more way to do that also. Now that would be, I would say, I'm not just technically defining terms, but that would have been a report. Now, if you are asked to do,
do you want to show what a good report also looks like?
I will. Yeah. So
you guys want to see what a good report would look like? Because a lot of times you'll be asked to submit reports and you submit very, very obnoxious reports. So let's look at a good report.
So, like you said, a report is something which is complete in itself. You've given a point and you have to say everything and somebody is going to read through it. Okay. Presentation, somebody in a situation where someone's going to sit through you speaking through it. I'm just going to share my screen again. So are you you all of course remember the World Cultural Festival, right? That happened. So the World Cultural Festival that happened in Delhi had quite an economic impact. So we made a presentation on how the economy was affected by the World Cultural Festival, of course, by the inflow of people, etc. All of that. I'll just show you that. Right, so you can see my screen now. So this is an example of a report. Like I said, this is the World Cultural Festival. What is the economic impact and what are the facts? Now this is like a research study sort of a thing. Now, what I have done is this entire report is a mixture of information and visualization. Okay, you must have heard the term infographics, right? So graphics is and information, when you put them together, it's just termed as infographics. So what happens, say for example, if you're talking about key highlights, normally this would be what you see over here would have been a bullet point list. Okay, because I can simply say 2.2% is the contribution of Delhi's in March 16. Okay, or I can say 16% increase in GDP per day during 3 days. Now this same thing can be given as just a bullet point. Okay, but the whole fact that we are just trying to show that there's an upward graph. Now even over here, this is just a line that I've just crookedly drawn. Okay, but it conveys the graph, correct? And usually economics is about graphs and any kind of statistics that you're trying to explain. 3.5 million is the biggest gathering in 2016. So again, if you see, this bullet list is just made visual so that anybody who wants to see, again, if you see the way in which information is conveyed over here, 3 out of 5 top countries from where international tourists in March came for the Art of Living International Centers. 1 of 6 tourists visiting Delhi in March had come to attend the Delhi World Culture Festival. Of course, we could have said, 18, 16, 17%, but 1 of 6, again, this example that I got given before also gives you a little more relatability. Now, again, a second page, there is of course text, there is definitely going to be text, but we can definitely have an image again in the background. If you see, now this is a very, very bright, colorful report, but you may need not have such colorful reports, or you can have more colorful reports, but this was meant to be there as a print. So the purpose of that was to make it even visually attractive. If you see again, there is text and there is a graphic followed. Again, in this graphic, if you're seeing, it is a very, very simple concept of putting a shape and having symbols and having the text below that. So if you see, what we're trying to convey through this point is that we're having an economic, social, and diplomatic approach to this entire function event. So again, no matter what this paragraph means, of course, if you're giving a report, you're meaning for someone to read it. But even if he doesn't read it, he just reads the study and he reads this part, he gets a gist of what you're trying to say. Again, over here, economic impact. So use of symbols, bullet points. So it's actually the same thing. I just want you to understand that you can start using your Word or PowerPoint as a blank canvas, because somewhere we are so used to writing one below the other. Sometimes it's okay to take a page and to just put things the way you want. Of course, now this will come with a little example, inspiration, and practice. But like I said, again, we had to describe from which country, how many people had come. So not a big deal. It's just put a world map and marked it based on the number of people where they came from. Now, again, this same thing could be just a bullet list, but it's not a bullet list. It's a country map instead. And these are just images that we have dragged and dropped. Again, if you see, there is one, if you want to make it very, very visual, even color coordinating it will help. If you see throughout this presentation, there's a strong sense of the color, which is orange and yellow. Now, this was there during the colors of the event, so we have kept the same throughout. So it looks consistent again. And I just want to bring your attention to this graph. Now, even if you're adding graphs, conventionally, we end up putting graphs with the grids, with the lines, with the axis, with a lot of things, right? A graph looks like as if it's just out of a mathematics textbook. Try to make sure that, you have really the option to strip down everything that is not necessary. So these bars just have the labels on top. So if I have to label the difference, I just label them on top. Imagine, if this same graph had an axis and I had to see how much this actually means, I would have probably not read it. Okay. But here I have the graph. It clearly shows what I'm trying to convey, and it clearly has the numbers on top. Okay. So this is just one example. Again, like I said, this report, you can definitely take it and use it for inspiration. Again, one more graph over here. I'll just make it bigger. So clearly, again, this is just a number of e-visas issued. So this is some data that we got from the tourism ministry. So again, if you see, there is no lines, there is no grid. It is very clear. The numbers are also very clear. And what you want to really point out, you can do it within the graph itself. If you're going to put this pointer over here, which is your most important point, somewhere inside this paragraph, it might get lost in there forever. Again, I love using every percentage that I get, I try to make it into a 1 in X. So a good thing that you can use everywhere. So again, over here, 1 out of every 6 tourists in Delhi had come to attend a World Culture Festival. The tourist rate forecast doubled. So again, if you see different ways of doing the same thing. Again, this is just a normal graph. I have just removed the numbers and I have put these people. So it looks like 1 guy became 2 means everything has doubled. So if you see, like, symbolically, it has conveyed the no. If you see, I did not waste any space in even labeling this, putting it over here, putting it down anywhere. You have so much space inside. That's it. You put it in. Again, very similar. So you're getting, I think, a brief idea of what I'm trying to say. Like I said, I can send this report. This is the kind of report, like you said, can be that which you expect people to read, and you may not be there yourself.
Did you make this report on Keynote? Somebody's asking, what is the software used?
So I have made this on Word, and then I've refined it on Pages. Everything that you see here can be done on Microsoft Word. I've opened it in Pages right now because my laptop had crashed. I could not install Word again. This is done on Microsoft Word, all of this.
So see, guys, you don't need any great,
so really, like I said,
software, nothing.
Yeah, it's not about software at all. See, that's what I'm saying. Everything you see over here, every little piece of information is just a matter of, this is just an image that I picked up. This image can
Dipankar, Nitin is asking, how much time did you take to make this report?
Oh, okay, fine. So this report took a couple of days. It took a couple of days. It probably took a month to compile the information. And it probably took 1 week of maybe 2 hours a day to put this together. So must be like 14 to 18 hours at least.
Guys, we put in that much amount of time and still come up with crappy reports. That's the problem.
So like I said, again, the good thing about this report is that the intention was very clear. Okay, so once you're done with the phase of what you want to use your data well. And like I said, see, learning how to visualize data well is something that may come with practice and something that may also come with inspiration. So along with the mail, with all the other things that will be sent to you, I'll send you some links where you can just keep looking at things. Now, like I said, what I used to do, now I have a habit. Even if I'm using an app, if I download a new app on the phone, I'm seeing how that app is using and how it is visualizing things. You see, all these health apps these days, I'm sure you all at least have one health app, which is measuring how many steps you took or what activity you did, or, anything, so all of them will have some or the other form of data visualization. You should seek inspiration from everywhere. Okay, because you will see everybody wants to be more visually attractive. Okay, because even you all are clear that you have to do.
Dipankar, there's a question on where do you get these images? Are they paid images, or is there any website for?
So I'm going to send you a link for the images also. All the images that I have used are from free links. They're just some nice sources. I will send that link to you. So everything that I use, none of this is paid. And like I said, I just want to, even something like this This is just, again, if you see everything over here, it's a combination of images that I've picked up from Google, shapes that I've taken from the PowerPoint or the Word, and I have just put images, text, and shape together. That's it. Any part of this. In fact, I'll tell you, sometimes if my graphs don't really line up to the way I want them to, I just make rectangles and I put a line underneath that. Okay, because that is also a graph. Now, you could get away with just making two rectangles over here and having this graph. You know what this is over here? I'll just give you a small example. This over here is actually I'm trying to show 16% increase. This is just a pie chart behind this circle which has 16%. So it's, like I said, it's all jugadu. There's no major software involved. In a matter of time, you will just get to understand these things. And like I said, to understand this, I will send you inspiration and examples.
So by the way, guys, this report was seen and appreciated by none other than Gurudev, multiple places. In fact, this report was printed, and every meeting that he had, he would point to this report and talk about this report. So it was just these two MBA guys, Dipankar and Anmol, who just did it for fun, like, to study from an MBA perspective, WCF. So that's really taking your skill and putting it to good use. And Guruji loved this report. Yeah. Thank you so much, Dipankar, for sharing this with us. I'm going to ask the audience for a couple of last questions. Anybody else who would like to ask a question? So Reema Thakkar, go ahead.
Yeah, hi Dipankar.
Hi.
Can you elaborate on how and where to use animations in the presentation?
So, like I said, animations should be used if you want to convey your point sequentially. Okay, now, if you notice, you would have probably not even noticed it much, that even in the presentation that we just had, whenever you talk about content or structure or design, each point actually comes one after the other, because I want you to focus on one thing at a time. So anytime you want to bring your audience attention on a very, very certain aspect, or say you're building up an order and you want to build up that order sequentially. So instead of using multiple slides, within the same slide, you use animations. In fact, you want like the same thing I had done before it. I can just show you. Is my screen visible to everyone?
Yes. Somebody's asking, apart from PPT, do you recommend any other presentation software or tool?
So, like I said, tool is very, very variable. Like I said, now, there are different ways in which you've done it. Now, Prezi is one way in which they actually change the way you completely present all of your presentation. It's almost like a graphic animation sort of thing. A lot of y'all have used videos. Some of you have used Powtoon. So I will give these sources of presentation softwares. But like I said, the whole point of saying everything that was made over here was that it can all be made on PowerPoint. Okay. So the tool is just a way, you just basically how comfortable you are with the tool, you will be able to convey your thoughts better. But for that, you need to be clear in your thought process. If you're clear in your thought process, like I said, all of these slides which I had made, I always have a sketch with me. I always sketch and I write down and I make mind maps of everything, and then I put them on paper. So then I decide how I want to put them. Do I want to put it in a square, circle shape, or an image, or a movie, or whatever? What happens is sometimes with softwares, we get carried away with it. Okay, so again, it will just be a fancy version of PowerPoint, because that software will also have a template, and again, you will tend to follow that template and you will realize you'll be lost. But okay, fine. Even if you're very, very clear with content and structure, there are two softwares I would say, Prezi, and second is Canva. If you go to canva.com, they not only have presentations, they have a lot of graphic resources. Okay, but again, they will just make your presentation look pretty. But if you want to make the presentation relevant, that is in your hands.
Somebody's asking, are you a designer?
So I started with Microsoft Word, and I was struggling to make newsletters. So I kept searching and finding and making things better. Till date, I still do a lot of my work. I mean, I design things, but I'm not a professional designer by like profession. But I have learned the process over a period of time. And like I said, I think maybe I'm just becoming good at understanding what people want. So that's what I'm saying. Even the whole point of the presentation is understanding what your audience or what you're being judged for. You can deliver that. So yes, I have learned softwares. I have learned a lot of softwares, but the more complex a software gets, the more time you end up spending on it. For me, it's not my full-time job. So I would prefer getting done in the simplest and the fastest way. And there is nothing simpler and faster than PowerPoint. And like I said, I only recommend changing the process that you have towards getting to it. Start with a blank canvas. It might look very, very intimidating or scary initially, but once you get the hang of it, then you will know. And like I said, even when it comes to presentation, maybe like I said, templates can be bad, but they can be good also. So as long as you have things clearly laid out, I'm going to send a list of new presentation templates also, which are a little better than what you already have in your PPT.
Okay, Deepankar, I'm sure these guys can ask you questions for the next 1 hour.
Hello.
Hello.
You got cut out.
With the same amount of patience and love, you can answer questions for the next 1 hour. Deepankar is, by the way, one of the most patient people I have known in my life. Like, I've never seen him get angry or even change the tempo of his voice. I don't know how he manages that. Of course, Kriya helps, but we will have to stop it over here. As promised, Deepankar will send some information, which I will share with you guys on your WhatsApp group. But first of all, I want all of you to give a thunderous round of applause to Deepankar, a really genuine, heartfelt round of applause wherever you are. Coming at such a short notice, and I mean, for me, he's like family, so I just called him and said, why don't you come over? And I think he's blown us away. Really, honest to God, this is the kind of stuff that you learn on very advanced workshops on design and analytics. And given my experience of teaching in different MBA colleges, this is stuff that very top-notch MBA colleges will teach you and charge you like a bomb for it. But Deepankar has just shared this so openly. Like, nobody shows their actual reports and their actual presentations. And he's so patiently answered all our questions. So I'll share with you guys what he shares with me. But really, thank you, Deepankar, for coming over and spending your evening with us and giving us these insights. Anything else you want to share before you sign off?
Bhaiya,
Deepankar?
No, I think that is good. It was nice taking the session also.
I can't hear you, Deepankar.
Can you hear me now? 1 second.
Maybe if you stop sharing your screen, maybe?
We can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me, yeah. No, I'm saying it's a pleasure to teach also.
We can't hear you, Deepankar. I think you're muted or something is wrong somewhere.
Someone said they can hear me.
Can you guys hear Deepankar?
Yeah.
We can hear you.
We can hear.
We can hear you. I can't. Okay. All right. Go ahead. Sorry. Maybe my end.
So yeah, it's a pleasure to teach also. And like promised, you all had asked some questions. I will share the resources. And like I said, see, if I tell you very, very honestly, to get a sense of all of these things has taken me a very, very long time. So of course, it was only because I also used to sit at the back of the class and question that why am I sitting in this presentation? And when I'm giving a presentation, I would wonder why people in the back are sitting and not listening to me. So that question over a period of maybe, I don't know how many years, has led me to putting all of these things down. So like I said, I will share these resources and you will learn through examples. So anything that you see anywhere, any kind of visualization, you should take inspiration from it. Like I said, I even use sometimes designs of the things that food boxes or mobile apps or anything really, if you ask, even advertisements on TV or whatever. So everything is an example, everything is an inspiration. So just see how you can use those examples well, and I will send you some. And like I said, there are some resources which will also help you right away. And like I said, always just, if you're clear about your purpose, then everything else really can be found or can be learned in the process. Thank you.
Dipankar, may I ask you one question? Vaishali?
No, we'll hold on. No questions now. You can send me your questions. Maybe I'll send those questions to Dipankar. But we'll really have to stop now. I know you guys have so many more questions. Maybe you can catch him in one of those big Art of Living events, Navratri or whenever the lockdown opens, and you can burden him with your questions. But really, thank you so much, Deepu.
Okay.
And guys, we'll need to stop now for this session. And tomorrow we meet at 4 p.m. Tomorrow also you have a very interesting session about technology hacks to communicate better. Again, a very, very interesting and brilliant person who's going to come and share his insights with you. Also, we might actually do a 15-minute session tomorrow on LinkedIn. So tonight you need to make sure your LinkedIn profiles are updated and spend some time on LinkedIn. So that is the homework. And please, jo bhi Dipankar ne abhi bola hai, if you immediately jot it down and put it in action, you will remember it. Otherwise, right now you're feeling very inspired. This feeling will go away. So sit with your presentation for half an hour tonight and do a before and after. Yeah, and jot down for yourself whatever Dipankar has told you. Please share it on the WhatsApp groups, what you learned today, what your experience was. Please share it on those WhatsApp groups that we have made. And tomorrow we'll see you at 4 p.m. Also, tomorrow morning we are doing long Kriya in Gurudev's voice. Since almost all of you have done the program, I really invite you to join us in the morning for sadhana. So 7 a.m. we'll be doing Sudarshan Kriya in Guruji's voice, and I will also be there. So would you all like to come for that? Yeah. I'll send you the invite on the group. 7 a.m. we do that. And then was one more announcement which I had. Okay, although all of you who would like to be a part of the upcoming course that we are going to organize, we are having a meeting tomorrow for volunteers. In case any of you would like to join the volunteer group for the next happiness program that I'm going to teach, if you're not already a part of some active group of teachers or whatever, if you want to become a volunteer, how many of you would like to do that? Raise your hands, please. Okay, then what you do is right now, just leave your name and phone number in the chat window. Just your name and phone number in the chat window. So we'll add you to the Seva group. And tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. is sadhana. So leave your name and phone number, not just your name and phone number, to make us add you to the Seva group. Yeah.
Can I share a line of my experience?
Ashutosh, yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, I have recently completed my MBA from XLRI, and what Dipankar just taught is not even taught in MBA colleges. So it is advanced visual analytics, which is taught in companies which are top notch, and in market when you go for such a course, it costs you around 50K for a session on just visual representation, and he has so simply covered it. Yeah, it uses Power BI, Tableau and everything, but Deepak has he has done it so simply, Dipankar, using Word and PowerPoint, that it is really commendable of him to share his experience to this.
Wow. Abhishek is sharing that he works for Rolls-Royce, and the sessions in his company about such topics are not even 50% as informative. And I had specially requested Dipankar that this is a crowd which is a mixed crowd. So he's made it as simple. But just because it is simple, don't think it's he could have made it very complicated. But he has really dumbed it down and made it very simple for us to know that the basics are the same. Yeah? So it's really, that is our art. And did you see his own presentation that he used today to teach? How beautiful was that? He actually implemented everything that he taught, right? Minimalistic, very visual, very simple. So the beauty is in that, yeah. It takes a lot of deep knowledge to make something simple. You know, like Einstein says, if you cannot explain it to your grandmother, you don't understand it. Right? So I think that's where Deepankar, I'm so happy that he did it in such a simple manner. So once again, Deepankar, if you're still there,
Thank
big
you.
round of applause. Lots of blessings to you. And thank you guys for joining us. Please share your experiences and learnings. I will share them in turn with Deepankar. All the praises you have for him, you can put it on the group and I'll send screenshots to Deepankar. And all right, then we'll see you tomorrow at 4 p.m. sharp. Do spend some time on LinkedIn and definitely jot down the learnings and implement it immediately. Yeah. Jai Gurudev, good night.
Good night.
Please leave your name and phone number if you want to become a volunteer with our team. Otherwise, see ya.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, Deepu.